Hey everyone, we're here on. We're gonna consider this the last day of Mega Monster Mayhem.
Well, you said that in the last video, though.
I know, I did say that was technically the finale, but I lied.
Well, yeah, no. That's the one thing you have to realize about hating. Is that a liar?
Yeah, I'm hating about I'm a liar. Apparently, that
was the whole thing. Was the build up to this moment.
That's how it always is, guys.
Yeah.
So joining me actually today is Daniel at Monster07. You can follow him on Twitter. Furman. I always mess up your name. What, did you just do a gang sign?
Yes.
Dude, it has to be a G sign first of all.
For that.
What's a G?
I don't know. G
Can
fan.
you
I
actually
don't
do
know.
G with a hand?
Can you? What is that?
I don't know what that is now.
I don't know.
Sorry.
That looks like Godzilla's face. So anyways, guys, we're here. We're nearing midnight. We just saw Godzilla, Shin Godzilla Resurgence.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't know why anyone's even calling Godzilla Resurgence at this point.
Yeah.
It's just Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, let's Americanize the Japanese one.
And we're just going to use these first 2 minutes to go on our most non-spoilerish review, and then you can just watch the rest later. Yeah. The rest of this video, by the way, will be just full on like analysis and spoilers. But for now, we're just going to give our first impressions. So if you haven't seen the movie, which you only have about a day left for the U.S. limited screens.
Yeah.
So
Or you'll probably find some other way to do it.
Right, exactly. And if you're going to go watch it later, you can watch this review once the Blu-ray is released from Funimation.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad they did that because we got to see it at Roxy Theater, which if we want to describe our like the way we saw it, like the actual theater and stuff like that, that'd be cool as well because it was small.
It was a small theater. How many people do you think could fit in there? Like
100? 100, yeah.
About 100 people?
Yeah.
Which is big for one. No, that's not super big.
No.
But it seemed like I think they only have one screen.
It was a single screen theater.
Yeah, which is cool because they're able to choose their movies.
So this is probably boring to you guys who don't live in the Bay Area, but Roxy Theater is kind of famous in the Mission District apparently. That was my first time going, and it was awesome. Like,
I like
they had this really cool like montage of all the different movies with like clips spliced in.
Yeah, and the film projectionist. He's the one that actually did it.
She.
That's right.
There you go.
He just reverts to he because only men do things.
Well, going by the never mind, I was gonna go in the ending spoiler stuff, but I was gonna say gender's kind of ambiguous there. Anyways, so what's your guys' first impression of Shin Godzilla immediately, just fresh off from Roxy Theater?
Definitely liked it.
Yeah,
definitely did like it. There's a lot of reviews out there that are not. I don't think they're getting the point of the movie.
Yeah,
they're going in it as, and I think it's a valuable input to go in as somebody who doesn't really know a lot of Godzilla movies.
I think it's a good fresh perspective.
Yeah. Somebody that doesn't really watch a lot of kaiju movies.
Yeah.
You want to go in there knowing what did somebody else like if that's you. Yeah. What did somebody else like me think?
I think the best thing to do for Shin Godzilla before you even go into this is like set your expectations immediately. This is not a daikaiju film where you're fighting when you're having like wrestling monsters.
It's not Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
There's like barely there's practical effects, but it's only like when they're stomping. There's no actual wrestling scenes to any I don't want to spoil it. I was going to say,
but just there isn't.
Godzilla is the focus. I'll say that.
Right.
That's God. That's
and
the
it's
focus.
not like I said. It's not Pacific Rim.
I mean, it was the same thing with the American Godzilla movie. Everyone was
just
like, "Oh, this movie's like so boring. Like they're hardly isn't funny." It's like that wasn't really the point. Like you're just seeing like all the humans affected by the emergence of Godzilla.
So did you like it, Daniel? Then?
Which in this one, I did like it a lot.
Yeah,
I felt it was very much like that too, where it was just like how Japan as a whole deals with, well, as they were saying, the resurgence of Godzilla.
Right.
Really.
And the Shin, this new Godzilla, this new threat that. By the way, since we're going on first impressions, I really enjoyed it as well. Like I don't think there was ever a question. I think this might be the first thing where I can honestly say bias may come into there, where it's immediately like, I'm not going to trust other reviews like you talked about. Like it's nice to have fresh perspectives. But me and Furman in particular, we're huge fans of Evangelion and Hideaki Anno in general.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was a world where this would be bad or disappointing me as much as 3.33 did. That's different. That's a different topic entirely. But I'm glad to report that, this was not a 3.33 situation. He honestly, like, I'm about to say hit it out of the ballpark. That works.
You know what? I agree. There's it's definitely not what you expect if you're going, like we said a million times.
Yeah.
But if you're able to go in it with a clean palette of what you'd expect, you're gonna have a good time because it's a lot slower than you expect to be. But I enjoyed how slow it was at times.
Yeah.
Because of what it was stating.
Yeah, for sure.
Of what it was stating with the pace and with the
political dynamic of like Japan's like what it's talking about Japan's current health and the state of government and bureaucracy.
Very eye-opening in that term.
We're burgeoning on like spoilers at this point, but sound was incredible. Visuals, even though they didn't use that many practical effects, as far as I could tell, they used. If you go watch, there's a lot of videos online. I'll even have it overlaid right now of like the CG creation of Godzilla. His design is incredible, and we'll go on further.
It was very restrained in how much they used, but also the parts that they used were very explosive.
For practical.
Yeah.
Explosive is a terrible term to use because it's so...
You'll notice it.
Yeah.
You'll notice the difference.
For sure.
But the CG was still fantastic enough to do the job.
Yeah.
I will say there was parts where he was falling, and that was a little jarring. The way he interacted with objects and collision.
It almost felt like in the old ways where it's just like, oh, I'm just kind of going down.
But that felt natural and fluid because there's a guy falling. This felt like a CG issue where
when they did the CG ones, where it was just like, oh, everything's just kind of collapsing.
That's the only visual faux pas I would say the entire film had. For me. But aside from that, go watch the movie. That's our non-spoiler review.
Definitely. If you like we've said a million times, if you go into expecting something different, I think you'll be happy. If you go in expecting what other movie besides Pacific Rim? So
any like King Kong, like Peter Jackson King Kong, where it's like all
this is not American. This is not this is not an American movie.
But it is more in line with the American remake, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Then it would be like with Final Wars, for example.
Even then, there's a huge difference between the American
for sure.
Godzilla and these two new Godzillas.
So we're stressing in the first 5 minutes that go into this with the right expectations. That's all that matters. Go into this expecting a new interpretation of Godzilla, entirely new. Like there's some weird shit.
It gets
some weird shit. And on that note, let's just go in. So that's been your warning. We're going to spoilers now.
So
go ahead and start. How'd the movie even begin?
People were just fucking talking.
Yeah.
But you know what? Okay, they were talking a lot. Well, okay, no, the first thing that happens is Godzilla comes out and they're not sure what it is.
Yeah.
And I think it was there for 2 hours. They said that he was there for 2 hours and they wreaked a lot of havoc.
First, there's this massive bloody explosion into the bay. Yeah. And then there's just like you see the blood seeping into like the subway system. It's really gross and disturbing.
I didn't know if it was blood at first. I thought maybe it was oil.
I thought it was like dirt or some crazy mud or someone's septic tank.
I thought it would have been a separate monster entirely. Like it wasn't even Godzilla yet. Like
because the first time we see Godzilla, he's this unevolved, like no armed kind of fish looking thing.
Right, and that's one of the coolest things about this film that I was somewhat spoiled on. All I knew is that there would be different forms of Godzilla, but I never knew that would be his form. This like weird undersea deep water creature, like the way his eyes were super bulbous, the way his gills would just bleed out blood. By the way, that's like one of the first parallels immediately you'll notice with Evangelion and this.
Wait, can you reiterate what was he bleeding out?
Blood.
Okay, good. just good to know.
Bleeding out blood. Hey,
no one makes him bleed his own blood.
It could be something else, you know. Who knows? It's Godzilla. This is a weird Godzilla. So Daniel, what were your thoughts about like the beginning of it?
The beginning of it I thought was really good. It was kind of slow. I get that.
It was 70% dialogue.
Yeah, but
easily.
You easily realize that it's the way that they're trying to basically show off how the government was operating, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just like you want the government to take action. You want government to basically, think of the people, yes, think of the country as a whole.
Right.
But the way they're going about it just seems so unnecessary. You have to talk to this guy. Are you approved? Yeah, let's go talk to this guy. Is he approved? Okay, now we need to talk to this guy.
One of the characters, when they're walking down that corridor for the millionth fucking time, there's a corridor they go down a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Sorry, it wasn't working on that side. And he says, well, there's so much red tape. And this is why we can't get anything done.
Yeah.
And this is why they were so slow to actually attack it. Which, once they attack Godzilla, nothing happens. Their weapons weren't strong enough.
Yeah.
Which is a huge comment on the demilitarization of Japan post-World War II.
There's unbelievable amounts of visual imagery that you can draw from this and immediately parallel and correlate to Japan's current health. Like the fact that he's a bleeding giant dinosaur, like the fact that he's just dying. He's not like in the original film, the 1954 film, where he was... Sure, he had cancerous skin. That's always been Godzilla. He wasn't injured by any means. This one kind of showcases a Japan that's been crippled by, like you said, red tape. Literally to the point to where there's literally whatever, guys. There's literally a wake of blood that's following him, almost like a red tape crossing the landscape, if you look at it that way.
Right.
There's some visual imagery. I saw that.
No, I get you.
I totally get that. Where you kind of see Godzilla as basically the metaphor for Japan.
Yeah. No, that's not even a question. I think it's always been that way, and I think it's obvious in this one especially.
And I think it's really interesting to view in the current light of Japan's nuclear meltdown and everything.
Totally.
Which, it's obviously Godzilla has always been a metaphor for nuclear power and nuclear weapons. But I think it adds so much more to know of the nuclear meltdown that happened and how it's still just really screwing up the country. And
it's horrifying in the later part of the film, even to the characters, to the point to where there's not one reference to nukes. They reference radiation pretty early on. Because they get that on their rad meters, whatever you call it from Fallout.
And they mentioned nuclear fusion at one point.
Nuclear fission, but they never even remotely speak of the idea of dropping nukes until later on in the U.S., which I was very surprised because we can go into this as well. The film is hilarious. The film is actually comedic.
Yeah, I was hoping you were going to say that.
It's almost like a political satire. Really.
It is. I think it is a political.
It is
it has to be a political satire, like for sure, because there's scenes in this where it's just like the very beginning of the film. We'll spoil that part too. They're literally just like arguing. That's our goal, right?
Yeah.
But they're literally like arguing. Okay. Let's take a break. They constantly take breaks because they can't decide at the moment because it's such a painstaking process for this old, really like old physically. Everyone was old.
Yeah.
The government before they get killed.
Which I think it's a very vital point that we should.
It's a vital point
it's
that
of
the views are the views of Japan are decaying, and so is their parliament. Like, not to say that we're obviously gaijin. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about in terms of all the political nuances, but it's pretty clear what Ano at least thinks, if we're going to go that far, or at least they try to portray a Japanese current government because
you have the younger newcomers who are actually
they care, they're sincere,
they care, and not that the older people didn't care, it's just they're like, well, we have to do this,
they're
by the book,
there's a way. The system's put in place for a reason.
They're slaves to their own system. They're sentimental for these old U.S. honestly these U.S. oppressive constraints that they put on.
As I said, it's like this is how democracy works.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is democracy, and it showed that in the 2 hours that this creature was on, or Godzilla was on the land, they took them 2 hours to be asking stupid questions like is it going to be able to go on land? Oh, we don't think so.
People have to abandon their beloved homes. Like, dude, do you realize what's happening outside? Yeah.
They're valuing these other things over, hey, let's protect the people and let's kill this thing. They weren't doing that. There
wasn't even a question of whether they'll even exterminate it. It was a conversation, but it was immediately like, let's kill this thing.
There were some people saying
there were some that wanted to
they wanted to preserve it. Yeah,
they did want to preserve it for sure.
But I mean, it's an immediate threat, and it's not some ambiguous thing. Well, is it gonna hurt us? It's like, no, it is hurting us
for sure.
It is out there attacking
for sure. There's even a line in there that like we had 2 hours and that was the best we can do, and it's like, no, we had 2 hours and this is what little we can do, something like
which
that.
is why they ended up making that new task force,
right?
Yeah. Which everybody laughed at first when we saw the task force because they're like, "Oh, they're having another fucking meeting."
There's a joke literally in there where the main character, which we're gonna blank on the names by the way, except for Kyoko, because Kyoko for president 20. What would it be? 2040? I don't even know.
No, it'd be 40 years from now.
40 years from now. So
2046.
2046. There you go.
I don't think
so
that
Kyoko
adds up.
56.
He's a math major,
56.
obviously. He's not a writer.
40 years from now. No, but it said when she was 40.
Yeah, when she was 40.
Yeah.
Oh, so about 20.
Like 20.
No, she might have been like... She could have
this is a weird conversation to go into. But yeah, there's some really good characters in here. But I feel like the focus is more so on Godzilla and this main Parliament character, which... Is it Yaguchi? I think it's Yaguchi.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, Yaguchi, like that's his last name. That's how they refer to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure it's Yaguchi. Anyways, he is like basically the paradigm that it seems like the film is positing, the paradigm that the government should reach up to, which is being sincere and being active and doing anything by all means necessary.
And he was younger, which is, I think you can't overlook.
Yeah.
And when did he create the task force, the new one?
He was part of the disaster. He was like the head of the disaster task force.
No, but I mean the new one that they had to put together.
They gave it to him basically.
Okay,
he didn't, like, create
one thing that was
it.
really interesting about that is he's like, none of us have titles, none of us have levels.
Right.
We're just working together.
Totally.
Which is something which is exactly what
we're all losers, nerds, dorks, whatever.
That was funny.
Yeah, that was funny. They're like, this is who we are, and we want an open system.
Club.
Like everyone talk. Exactly.
Godzilla Breakfast Club, something like that. Yeah, I want that should be the name of.
They were all in detention, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez, they were all in Attack on Titan. Really? What is his name?
The main guy, Yaguchi.
The actor was Hiroki Hasegawa.
What's his character name? Because we can't go
on
here. This video. Anyways, what was I was saying? Going back to Godzilla himself, since we're kind of avoiding that as well, like Godzilla's design in the early half, we talked about how he's like this deep underwater creature. What did you guys think of like the fact that he almost looks like Burning Godzilla, where he's almost
Yaguchi.
It is okay. We were right. Yay! We actually did some journalistic fact checking. What did you guys think of his like design in general? Once he finally. During that really disturbing scene, that disturbing scene where he like wrecks himself upright and everything like that.
Yeah, where he evolves.
Yeah, where he evolves.
Yeah, he like literally evolves.
They don't show the moment. They show the moment when he raises, but they don't show the moment he like it just emerges again as his full Godzilla.
Yeah, because they talked about his full Godzilla form, the one that you see in the trailers.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be his fourth evolution.
His fourth evolution.
And I think,
which is weird.
Didn't we skip a third?
We did skip a third. Yeah.
He does that underwater, which I don't think is that big of a deal.
Yeah. We never see it. That's
you don't see it.
It's a weird reference. It's like fourth impact kind of thing instead of third impact.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like the Jet Shot Mark III.
Yeah, that's true. But what did you think of that final design? Like once we got Shin Godzilla in there.
I thought it was interesting because he's still very stiff like the older movies.
Right.
If you look at the American version, he moves a lot more.
He's more agile.
Which is a blatant difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
But I liked how he looked strong. He looked really strong.
Right. We'll probably pizza watch. We'll pause it. Don't worry. Hello?
We're getting pizza. We ate pizza.
Yay, pizza was good. We have energy now. I feel like it's the opposite. I go into like a pizza coma.
Well, that's just because you're trying to digest.
Yeah.
That's what the process is called.
Yeah.
You know, that's really interesting. We mentioned a little bit earlier that like Shin Godzilla, they don't mention nukes or anything like that until the nuclear fission aspect of like that's how he eats, that's how he sustains himself.
Yeah.
Consumes.
I love actually how they rationalize the fact that like the immense weight of Godzilla would immediately collapse in any other realistic organism. They would die if they walked on land.
Yeah.
But they basically combat that immediately and say like there's something in his structure, which is nuclear fission, and his bones, her skeletal structure, which is a new element. They said.
Yeah.
And they said that.
They said his body was full of new elements.
Yeah. So they're actually trying to rationalize like Godzilla existing. I knew Anno because he's kind of like he likes to do soft, like mid-soft, hard sci-fi. You know what I mean? Like it's not fully hard sci-fi, but he likes to,
your sci-fi so hard.
like he likes to have all the gauges and meters like an Ava. He had that a few times where it's like 80% of this weird coolant, this coagulant. But anyways, let's get back to the Godzilla design itself. We mentioned what he looks like when he's this weird preemie like undersea creature.
Yeah.
Then we mentioned what he looks like when he's upright.
It's just I don't know. It bothered me because like
you wanted to say something about that.
Yeah, just because the visual effects that they used were pretty good like most of the time, but when it came to that first form of Godzilla, it felt just so I don't know, just so unrealistic. It was almost jarring.
But do you think that was intent? I feel like it was intentionally a little jarring. You know,
it could be intentional. But like all the other later forms of Godzilla, I thought were perfect. It's just that first one just really weirded me out.
I think that was like honestly, it's part. I mean, part of it I think is the CG. Like it just looks really weird. That he's waddling about and like there's this.
And those eyes are very like
bold.
In general, the eyes were horrifying in this film. Actually, like, they were really scary. Like there's a part when we'll get to it further, but his eyes actually shift to different colors even.
Yeah.
But I think that was probably like some element of the uncanny. The fact that they're mixing. We didn't talk about this earlier. That Shinji Higuchi is the co-director. And he's actually behind.
That's right.
He's behind the Attack on Titan movie,
which was not very well received.
It wasn't well received, but the effects looked fantastic from all the trailers I saw. I haven't watched the movie yet, and he actually was responsible for the Gamera special effects as well in the trilogies.
Really?
Yeah. Weirdly enough, now he's like gone full circle from Gamera to Godzilla.
And this has gone full circle.
This is on for Mega Monster Mayhem. Go check out day 4. Yeah, day 4.
I don't know.
Anywho, Gamera has a cool design as well. And what's weird is that Godzilla kind of reminded me of Gamera when his jaw begins to split open.
Yeah.
And like
what? Yeah.
I almost feel like in a sense that almost legitimizes why he can actually do the sort of flame breath he has.
Yeah.
Because if you really think about it, it's like our throat isn't exactly lined up with how our jaw is. So it's like you're not going to breathe fire immediately straight out. It's going to go down a bit, basically through the tongue. So like doing that actually kind of makes it, in a sense, more scientific.
Yeah. In general, like it's like it goes to our hard sci-fi that Anno seems like he made some conscious effort with Higuchi to make it make sense. Make this giant fire-breathing lizard thing. Lithered. That's what we're going to call him now.
Don't call him that.
But they try to make it sense. Like if you look actually at those shots, I wish we had some shots here. Maybe I'll put them right here. When his mouth is open, you can see that like he had like little ribbons of flesh around. In his mouth, and like it seemed like that was meant to protect his own mouth from flames.
Yeah, he was ribbed.
Yeah.
Yes.
For Tokyo's pleasure. Anywho.
Ooh.
What are any other design or like creature elements you wanted to talk about before we move on to like what happens to him? Like what did you think that was cool, by the way, that his back started exploding?
I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
That was actually kind of dope.
So I mean, first we already know about the beam that he shoots, which was really cool because it started off as just flames,
pure flames,
and then it focused into this beam that just fucked everything up.
And by the way,
destroyed
they call it a photon beam. It's like it's not just a flame. It's not flames anymore, which is what he usually uses typically. They call it a photon.
Oh, I didn't see that.
They say like he's shooting photons everywhere from his back. But you're right. It goes back to the eye thing that we mentioned where his eyes change color. There's actually like this shark-like membrane that makes his eye go solid black when he goes and starts engulfing the entire Tokyo underground and cityscape with fire. This is the first Godzilla where it seems like he's consciously... I mean, 1954 he did this well, But this is the first Godzilla where he seems to be consciously trying to cause as much damage as possible, if you notice.
Yeah, and he does.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and when you mention his back shoots out.
Yeah, describe what happens.
Shoots out like just this. Did you ever play, what was that game? Missile Command?
It was like a disco. Like, seriously.
Okay, it was kind of like a disco. That's even better.
Godzilla's back is a disco ball from
his back was a disco, and all these beams shot out, which were actually more of a defensive mechanism. Yeah. They were shooting down, not helicopters, the stealth bombers.
The stealth bomber.
The stealth bombers.
US people start to bomb.
Yeah. So we'll get to that in a second.
Right.
But he shoots it out of his back as a defense mechanism as well to kill all these stealth bombers. And he shoots out of his tail. Which that
gets weird later on.
That gets weird, and we'll get to that too.
So Anno, that's such an Anno moment. Fucking
Do you think at some point with this version of Godzilla, they make most of his actions seem more instinctual versus with full intent?
I was about to mention that it always seems like it's retaliatory in the sense that he's defending himself. It's never he's never aggressive. There's never even a moment where they consider why is he on land. Like they never mention it. And it's like the idea is he wants to go eat. But I think that's so common in the Godzilla vernacular. That's why they didn't talk about it. If you notice, they don't mention why he wants to go on land or why he's even doing it. They just because they focus on the human conflict, which is interesting because it was a huge criticism of the 2014 version. Which the 2014 version honestly had more kaiju action. So if you want to go,
well, it's because there were more kaiju.
Compare those. Yeah. There was actual kaiju.
There were no other kaiju in this.
That was daikaiju. Daikaiju. I always pronounce it wrong.
Yeah,
that means versus. But anyways,
dichotomy. What?
Yeah, dichotomy.
Yeah, dichotomy. That word.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So the reason he shoots those beams out of his back is because the U.S. because of the Japanese-U.S. peace treaty. Hopefully, you do know that after World War II, when we so graciously nuke them twice
with much grace.
Yeah. Japan was demilitarized, and they only have what is akin to National Guard. What would they call the SDF?
Yeah, self-defense force.
Self-defense force.
Not EDF. I wish.
Yeah, right.
It might do a little better with EDF.
And not EDM, electronic dance music.
Fucking.
Anyway, so the U.S. gets involved, and they drop much.
They dropped some massive bombs on them.
Yeah, they were
not nuclear.
They were nukes, but they were stronger weapons than the Japanese military had because the Japanese couldn't pierce its armor.
Strong enough to be like Luke Cage bullet spoilers. Is that too big of a spoiler?
No, I mean you know that eventually something's gonna happen.
It penetrates Godzilla's skin, all right.
And then
causing to bleed.
Yeah,
a lot. There was a lot of blood.
Yeah, and that's what triggers the whole laser light show.
Yeah, laser light show.
Wait, that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah, and but what's really interesting is that it's the U.S. Once the U.S. gets involved, then Japan was not talking about nukes. U.S. gets involved, nukes. They go straight to nukes.
And it goes back. Oh, go ahead, Daniel.
Well, I was just going to say, because it's not so much the U.S. is immediately like, let's nuke it.
Right.
It was the combination of the UN coming together and being like, remember, because they brought up the possibility of it sprouting wings.
Yeah.
And couldn't reach the U.S. coast. And then all the other countries in the UN saw this as a legitimate problem. And they're like, yes, the U.S. is the one proposing the nuke, but the UN's like, we're totally backing this. Like,
yeah.
Because it was immediately a global threat as soon as that thing fucking emerged and started destroying. Like, Japan, as sad as it say, it was like kind of like the Bikini Atoll for Godzilla, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are deliberate metaphors. These are deliberate things that they're trying to convey. Which goes back to what we talked about, Daniel, when we were talking about how it's all retaliatory. It's like all defensive.
Yeah.
It's like, it's in a sense kind of references Japan, how Japan has been rendered and crippled in a way that it can only defend itself, it can never attack.
Right.
And the only time that it defended itself was once it was like, honestly, unjustly attacked. Like, they never even tried to communicate. Granted, they mentioned they find a way of communicating with him. But it didn't seem like Godzilla was... Again, he never tried to actively kill people. It was collateral damage. Always collateral damage.
Yeah.
Godzilla in the 1954 movie, he fucking straight up destroyed people for like the sake of destroying things. Not like he looked at a person and then blew them up.
Yeah.
But he was like just destroying things without being attacked. That was the interesting part.
Not to say that Japan's reaction is unjustified because
they need
to protect their people. They need to kill this thing that's killing a lot of people. First 2 hours.
Save Godzilla.
Yeah, and they took great steps to actually really display that too. Like they were almost like went on full helicopter attack Godzilla, and there was like 2 people, like literally just 2 people somewhere in that vicinity, and they're like, Prime Minister's like, nope, can't do it.
And that I appreciate that, and I think that's they're trying to. That's like the only time where Anno's like, okay, let's respect the fact that these people still care for people's lives.
Yeah.
That, like, because as much bureaucracy, as much red tape there is, and how Byzantine this empire is of like systems and rules you have to follow, at least they still care, or at least the Prime Minister did in this case, cared about the people to the point where he wouldn't even sacrifice 2 lives. which you could argue that the younger people were really belligerent and wanted like to sacrifice those two
some
lives.
of them.
The one girl specifically, the defense girl, she wanted to kill, like she wanted to constantly drop bombs.
The defense
woman, you're right.
Yes.
She was older. Yeah,
but I mean, it also makes sense. She was she's been doing the job for a long time because she's older, so she wants to defend and people are gonna die regardless.
Yeah.
And it's horrible to say, but what's a little collateral damage compared to potential damage?
That's always what it
good
comes
for the
down
greatest
to.
number of people.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And it goes back to the idea as well. Like, everything goes back. Everything keeps referencing back. Apparently. But it does, because it goes back to the idea that Japan itself, there's this weird... if you don't know anything about like Japan's current political strife right now, or not strife but movements, there's a really weird, hard right-wing like conservative movement in Japan's government to retrieve this some sort of post or pre-World War II era glory. There actually is like a systematic government endeavor from a lot of people in the parliament, and also just publicly fervor for this like resurgence of, ironically, Godzilla resurgence, this resurgence of like the right-wing Japan, where like Japan is militarized country.
Yeah, which
so it's
makes
weird
sense.
that this is like so poignant.
Which makes sense because it wasn't a movement within the country that ended that. It was two bombs that ended that. Yeah. And so now here's the idea of U.S. coming in again with a third bomb, and these people are just so pissed off.
At least they weren't treating the U.S. aggressively too. I did appreciate
they weren't.
that.
The
U.S. weren't like treated like they wanted the U.S. like, can we get the U.S. to help us right now?
Yeah.
Remember that scene? They're like,
but
holy shit.
It's a dependency that they have that they don't want to have.
Yeah.
And now that the dependency,
or the new people don't want to have. The old people did want that.
They did.
The old people wanted
it, but everybody's realizing this dependency is going to bring about another nuke on us, which just to them feels like bullshit. And I get that. And even though they're aware of how important it is, but then the question gets brought up because they said that there was a 13% chance that it would fly to New York or to the U.S.
Yeah.
And they said that America said that if this was in New York, they would do the same thing. And you can just hear it in the back of their voice. It's like, that's bullshit. They don't believe that the U.S. would do that. At least that's how I interpreted it.
I feel like that was a backhanded reference to '98 Godzilla. That was my
because they did do that.
They did do that. They did nuke it. Yeah, that's the weird part. There's a lot of interesting like the Japanese cross U.S. research team. Remember they did that. They did that as well.
Yeah.
Like I appreciate they tried to incorporate. I've never seen a Japanese movie like, or at least something like this. That's kind of a genre movie. Incorporate such direct political commentary because I wasn't aware personally of like how much like U.S. influence is still actively enforcing these crippling laws of like you can't do anything like Japan's military, etc.
And I also liked how they were actually going and stretching out to the other countries too. Like they included Germany, they included France. And their inputs too, which
there's a funny scene with France.
There was a funny scene with France, basically. Yeah. But it was just I did like that. Like Japan is a nation as a whole, and they were trying to take care of their own problem, but they knew that they needed help. But I just liked how they never let their glory take over too much to just be like, we need to figure this out because something bad's gonna happen.
So what this roundabout political talk, it goes to show you the fact that like 70% of this podcast review-esque thing that we're doing is essentially become political talk. It goes to show you like this movie was barely about Godzilla himself destroying the city and more of like what Godzilla represented and what Godzilla his actions and his ripples throughout the government actually like illustrates about Japan's government right now.
Yeah, so if you're interested in that, then
if you're interested in that,
this movie is gonna definitely gonna like it. But even if you're not too into that, I still think if you can go in this with an open mind, that you'll like it.
One of the biggest things I wanted them to do was definitely play the classic Godzilla theme because 2014 didn't do that. They did that twice in this film.
They did that twice.
So I'm happy.
Just when he first emerges in the fourth form.
They play the exact 94 audio.
Yeah, and that was amazing. Like that was great.
It sounded so out of place. I think deliberately to showcase how weird of a Godzilla this is.
Yeah.
To show how jarring this weird, almost Frankenstein Godzilla that's like pulsating with this red, almost burning Godzilla from '95, the Troya movie, pulsating with this red, bloodish aura to it, and it's just weird that they used that music at that point. At first, I thought, is Ano mocking it? And I was like, no, he's playing respect to it. He's just trying to make something weird. Some weird connection there.
And also the music.
Oh my god,
the music was
Shiro Sagisu.
Yeah. Did he also do? He did.
He did all of Eva.
He did all of Eva.
All of Eva.
And if you're a big fan of Eva, you're gonna hear this because. There was one song, I don't know if it's the same thing, that began with a lot of percussion, sounded exactly or is the exact same thing from an Ava.
It's from like Decisive Battle. Like
yeah.
I think everyone's been saying that on the internet. They do comparisons. They're fucking identical, Daniel.
Yeah.
Like you haven't seen all of Ava, right?
No, not all of
it.
But
you can
I've heard
hear
enough
the music,
where I
right?
could definitely tell. Like it definitely had that same.
The drums
style.
done. We're just gonna copyright strike right there.
Yeah, right there.
Right there.
And then all those shots from when they're preparing for the battle against Godzilla the first time. Totally Ava. Completely Ava. And I actually loved that.
The tanks assembling and firing in a linear fashion, that's Ava.
The way there's just like a rhythm to the way that they move, I think was...
So if you're a huge fan of Anno stuff, like if you're a huge fan of Ava like we are, you'll love this just on that merit alone. But Dan, you didn't have that, and did you enjoy ultimately the later action when they're finally doing this weird coagulant?
To freeze Godzilla?
To freeze Godzilla.
I was actually very intrigued to that because like... The whole time as we're watching this movie, they're like, "This is the Yamaguchi plan. Like, this is where we're gonna go."
Yeah.
With and then what did they call it later?
It was Yori, right?
No, they were referencing the sake that Susanoo.
Yoshi, something like it was a reference to a classic
or something like that.
It would start with a Y. I think it's Yori.
But it was referencing the sake that Susanoo gave to Orochi to basically make him fall asleep.
Which is a famous.
Google that and you'll know the name of it.
Yeah, it's a very famous myth.
Yeah, but it makes total sense of the situation too because
King Ghidra is based on that.
Yeah, but like. The whole time we're just like, okay, they're working this coagulant. It's gonna freeze Godzilla from the
inside. Yeah,
and then we see the plan come to action. There was train bombs.
There
was like building collapsing intentionally. It's like, whoa, this plan was
to make him fall.
Yeah,
over.
This plan was way more thought out than that. It was honestly impressive.
And it was the first time. It was the first big time where all of the effort was given or put on the shoulder of Yaguchi. The first time where, by the way, we can go into this a little bit more, but. The performance and stuff like that, but Yaguchi, I think his actor did a very good job of portraying this really stressed, overworked character
with a love for his country,
but not a naivete about it. Like he does, and not an antagonism towards other countries as well. Like he totally interacts with Kyoko, who is beautiful again. 2030
very nice looking
president,
lady.
whatever.
I'd
appreciate it. Anyways, she interacts with him in a really like informal way. And I thought her acting was good. It did its job, but the English for me really did it was laughable. It really was funny.
And I mean, there's nothing they can really do about it, and I get that.
She was like the daughter of a
senator or something.
Of a general.
General
Patterson.
So everyone, Ross is the president. Is President Ross?
President Ross, from
Ross.
The Red Hulk. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There you go.
Yes.
I don't know what that is.
Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah, Thunderbolt Ross.
Okay.
The Red Hulk is actually Betsy Ross's father.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
What a weird
Marvel cast, guys.
Remember in Civil War,
did Godzilla comics.
Civil War, the secretary, he's the Secretary of Defense, the one that supplies the Sokovia Accords. That is Red Hulk.
So that was your Marvel minute. There's a reference of Luke Cage in here earlier, but there you go. And ironically, there's another comparison because like he is immortal, Godzilla is, and Luke Cage, he's immortal as well.
I'd say he doesn't age.
And I do again. I always love it. I'm like a big fan of when they try to rationalize something. And again, I love the fact that they did that with Godzilla. They try to rationalize every aspect of like, how can this thing exist? And weirdly enough, it constantly mutates, and that's what they try to reference a lot. That's a mutation.
Were we gonna get into the whole like how they actually figured that out with the origami?
Oh my god, yeah,
that's weird.
Okay, I didn't like that part of the
I think that was too much of a stretch.
That was the lowest draw, or slog for me.
Yeah, because you see the little like the boat in the beginning, and like there's like the file and the origami thing. It's like okay, then later on it's like origami.
Like it's like in Heavy Rain, origami killer. They're just missing some like
Heavy Rain.
Yeah. Exactly, but I don't know how. Do you even understand what he's talking about? They're talking about this character named Maki, which maybe had a relation to Kyoko or had a relation to Yaguchi in some sake. I don't know what it was. I think there was like some familial relation there, but this guy had apparently notes on Godzilla. I think he's supposed to be the equivalent of Dr. Sarazawa.
Yeah. He had predicted the emergence of this creature,
which is weird. Like they should have focused on him a bit more.
I was actually left.
This film was too big. You could tell. It was too big for its own script.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it might have been just subtitles that you have to pay attention to so much more, and so you lose a little bit. So I don't really know how he fit into the story beyond that he had notes. It's like, why did he have these notes? Why was he focused on
He was a Deus Ex, like, for them to get that.
They did make it clear that it was because of how he felt about Japan letting his wife die because of the nuclear radiation.
Yeah.
So they
I would have liked to see that character then, like, pass it off to them. And
well, that's the thing. They don't know what happened to him because that was the whole point at the beginning where they're like, "Where is he?" And then we don't know anything.
Yeah.
He was the one in the boat. That's how we. Okay, that's the connection.
Yeah. But even then, I don't see. Was he studying radiation and he stumbled upon Godzilla?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Like,
yeah.
honestly,
I want more of that. I want to understand
because they were talking. He was specifically looking into Japan's negligence with their nuclear. Anything really?
Yeah.
And that's when he probably figured out about what they did, or that at least that whatever happened where they dumped all the nuclear waste.
Yeah.
And then that's what ultimately led to Godzilla. He probably, in some weird facet, predicted that something like this could have happened.
I just want to know how, because that's not an easy prediction to make.
Yeah.
I think the focus of the film ultimately they like made decisions at the hard script level because Anno was the writer of this as well.
Yeah.
I think at a hard script level he just thought it was more important to talk about Japan's current government.
I agree,
and that's probably why. But I do think because of that, the movie suffers. Ironically, people are going to probably criticize the hell out of me as a huge fan of Abe and all of his stuff. I think that the human story was better in 2014's Godzilla than it was in this one, which was all about the government and about this conceptual thing that we should care about people and care about Japanese government, etc. And at least I feel like for me, the 2014 Godzilla did accomplish a very intimate storyline between like a father who died.
Yeah, you know what? Bryan
Cranston sold it.
He's great.
I don't want to make this into a comparison thing, but I do think that is important to talk about. Like, people complain a lot about that.
He's playing, like, I guess that same professor role, really, where he was like, I'm the one who predicted this.
So he would be the missing link for this movie.
And that moment when, like, for example, we're now at 2014 cast suddenly, where, like, when his wife dies and he sees her die, like, that was more emotional than anything in the entirety of Shin Godzilla, and unfortunately for me. I feel like
I agree because
everything about that was more intimate and more emotional for me.
It only got to a same emotional point was when we started talking about the third nuke.
Yes.
Third nuke on Japan.
That was the most powerful moment.
Yeah.
And that made a lot of sense towards the whole point of the film. Yeah,
it just shows a damaged psyche that Japan still shares. Yeah. There's collective psyche.
Because as satirical as this movie came out to be, it slightly undermined the seriousness of some of it.
Yeah.
Which I mean, just went a little bit over. And
if you look at Ava, it's always been comedic as well. So it kind of it's black comedy almost in that sense.
Yeah. I think this is just it. While I liked what they did with the satire and the black comedy, like you said, I think it just went a little bit too much to really justify how serious they were about some of the concepts.
And also draw you in through the 70% dialogue in the beginning. Like, you need to have comedy or it's going to be boring.
Yeah.
It's funny because of how stupid and ridiculous the government bureaucracy is. But, Daniel, what do you want to get to in terms of the actual story now? Like, with the we talk about the coagulants. We don't want to make this a summary, obviously.
Yeah, they were trying to freeze him.
Did you guys... I think buying into that, I did actually buy that. I feel like that's the only way. You can't kill Godzilla, you only can stop him. That makes sense. You can only stop him physically by making him fall asleep, or most of the movies just goes to sleep.
Yeah, and like the whole thing with like his body just being so hot, nuclear fission, it makes sense that
I did expect. Okay, I don't know if you guys had the similar opinion, but I did expect him to fully heal by the end and be like just full on Godzilla. Yeah. But they kept that deteriorated, deformed look the entire time, and I wonder if like that's just Anno's version of Godzilla, and like that's what he wanted, or if like he was still approaching a final form,
which would be in a possible sequel.
Which hopefully that happens, but there's been rumors he doesn't want to do that.
Right.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the dentist stuff too?
The teeth, where they were talking about like, oh, he can't even eat anymore. And all his teeth were messed up. Remember? They mentioned that.
They do mention that. Is that why they targeted his teeth specifically?
Well, they were targeting his face and his legs, but I guess it's mostly just because of the, just more.
But why were they? So they just fired in there because they knew that's the softest tissue to get into.
Well,
we never even saw what they were firing.
Which part?
Well, we never saw the coagulant.
Well, yeah, we never actually saw it.
Well, it was just a chemical reaction that would have frozen his entire body. So it wasn't like a missile or anything.
No, I was thinking it was like a foam of some sort. But
it's like that too. Yeah. I was surprised that they had like the one thing that got me weird is with their calculation as far as like how much of the coagulant they actually needed to put into Godzilla.
Yeah,
because I'm like, he destroyed legitimately that first like caravan of it. Did they take that into account?
They did. It's because they had a platoon too.
Yeah, but that was the weird part because then the second time everyone was able to get the coagulant in and no one died. I'm like, did they expect like it was just weird?
I think they just had multiple contingency plans because this guy Yaguchi was really smart and he's by far the strongest character. Also, is Yaguchi and the other character he constantly talks to, who seems like he's higher in government, and
with the deeper voice.
The deeper voice. That guy had a really deep voice. He was a really good actor as well.
I really liked
him. His performance was really sold on like this guy who's wary about changing the system as well. Like he's right in the middle age. Like he's not as young as them. So he's not
as old as the prime minister.
But he's not as old. So he's like he sees the need. He sees what the younger people need, but he doesn't have to, but at the same time he sees this need of like having to stay true to the tradition. Like he's really conflicted. I appreciated that.
Which is it's the good focal point between the two characters, the Prime Minister and
there's like a huge contrast there.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten to the biggest thing, which
I think that's the last.
Should we just go?
I think we're ready to go into it, unless there's any other final thoughts in the rest of the film. I think that scene when he is blowing up the city, by the way, and like the fact they gave him purple spines instead of blue, was like very visually like striking.
That was appealing. Yeah.
One really cool thing I liked about the destruction scene was when they started shifting to all the different districts.
Yeah,
and they're just all on fire and just destroyed. And it's just like this is what Japan is right now.
It's crazy because especially the way that was done, the cinematography behind it, it was very beautiful in its destruction. Like it was the colors, like as much as it was horrendous to see that all Tokyo is, like you said, literally on fire and everything's torn down. You just can't help but like the majesty of the power that Godzilla had in that sense, you know.
And the music conveys that really well. I think the music's the strongest part of that scene.
Yeah. I've got two quick things. One thing is when they were evacuating the first time, there were some younger people that were going down, and they're like, "Oh, the escape slide," and they were videoing themselves like for Snapchat or something.
We didn't appreciate. We didn't talk about how much not found footage, but like iPhone and like all the different types of modern things that Japan, like, it really emulated the idea that this is what would happen if Japan was attacked. Like now on with our modern technology and everyone having a camera, and they criticized the fact that the government was so slow that the Twitter and all these other sources had news faster. Yeah, that was the best part, that they were being informed.
That was the whole thing. Like that was the whole first point of the whole. You could see that the system of government was failing. Where Yaguchi's like, well, there's this video of like a creature thing. I think it's a creature thing.
Yeah, it's a creature. And they're like, no, it's just like,
no, it's a vent. Shut up. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a steam vent.
Steam vent. Yeah.
And there's one part just really quickly I want to say. As much as I like the music in this, when they started going into the montage to get everything ready, they had this like rock song come on.
And you were laughing. I remember.
That was kind of funny.
Yeah,
it's too cheesy for me. Came out with this little distorted riff at the beginning.
My only interpretation, aside from Zagisu just like throwing in all the instruments and seeing what happens, I think my only interpretation of that would be that they're trying to glorify. It's a positive thing. They're trying to glorify the fact that Japan is resilient and Japan is able to strive on and be glorious in a lot of ways. It seemed like a very pro-Japan strength, but not in the right-wing conservative way.
Yeah.
Like Japan is. They even say a line. There's a President Ross line. You know, your whatever Planet Hulk. I don't know what you guys.
His name really is President Ross. Just
I need to read the comic.
Yeah.
There's a line that the president says that like Japan's grown enough now to have deals on the side and stuff like that. That doesn't really connect to that, but the fact that Japan's grown, the idea that Japan was infant. Infantilized by the U.S. is totally true to this day.
Which is a funny thing for the president to say.
The president's aware, like, we control Japan, essentially. Like, a weird imperialist notion. Yeah.
Any other thoughts before we get into that?
I know, we just really want to get to the finale. Let's go into it.
Just go, or get out of it, really.
Babies!
Yeah, so at the very end, first of all, there's lasers from his tails at one point, which is super cool.
Yeah.
But there's also a focus a little bit before that when he's frozen in the statue form, which we didn't even mention that, by the way.
Oh yeah, he did get frozen. That's the coagulation didn't work.
He's still there.
No, even before that though, when he was cooling down for like 15 days to charge up his power, you see his tail falter. And I did interpret that as like, oh, he's just activating again.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's some focus on that tail deliberately pointed at that point to start foreshadowing what happens at the end, which is fucking just describe what you see.
Yeah, so we've got his tail sticking up into the air.
Yeah.
And you see these little, like, things coming out of it. And at first you just think it's...
I thought spikes.
Yeah, I thought it was just spikes coming out.
Yeah.
But it ends up looking more humanoid.
Oh, fuck, man. They just thinking about this.
Yeah, so if Godzilla had, like, with a human, that's what would be there.
Yeah, that's...
No, because it, had humanoid, body, head, but it had a tail, it had the dorsals and the spikes. So, and if you watch, there's one part in the movie where they mention that Godzilla is capable of asexual reproduction. And
they do mention that.
Yeah, and this is exactly what that is. It was reproducing.
And the thing, so the thing that's interesting about it too is that if you look back at the design of Godzilla they were originally trying to do in concept art form, they're trying to make a Godzilla that had like a humanoid head, more humanoid features back in the day. Like I watched the documentary, go check it out. I think it's on the Long Take. There's a channel on YouTube. I'll try to show it here on cam with, of course, credits to the channel. Yeah. But there is emphasis that they originally wanted to design was that Godzilla looked more human than he did like later on when she looked more like a cat / lizard / whale. Yeah. And I think this is gonna be really wild, but I think this is an Anno ending. This is a mindfuck.
Oh
ending.
yeah.
This is Anno. This is a Gainax ending to the max. For
this is robots jumping off.
This is basic Segoy Squad right now.
Robots jumping off and throwing galaxies.
Oh man, that'd be fucking incredible. Let's have Gurren just fight this Godzilla baby thing.
It would win, I think.
I think my interpretation here, guys. You guys can talk about yours as well. My interpretation is it goes back to. I'm gonna spoil Ava. Sorry if you haven't seen that.
That's fine.
Ava is all about the dissolution of human barriers, right? It's all about the LCL fluids. Like everyone dissolves into that by the end of Evangelion, the movie. And again, I think Anno's trying to specify that, or not specify, but explore that at least in a visual way by showcasing that this Godzilla, who looked really deteriorated at first, may actually be somewhat human. That's my theory as well.
Yeah,
I think Godzilla may not be like this iguana that everyone tries to think of, like this radioactive iguana. I think that he just assimilates any organic matter, and he made these weird hybrids based on all the death and the organic matter that he was collecting. And maybe that was the reason why he was on land, beyond just feasting on nukes. Maybe you need to collect organic matter, and he sought humans, which is the highest.
So this would be sort of his mating ritual.
He's making them in their image, like Godzilla. That's the weird part too. He's making human. This goes really far. This goes into, again, I think Anno just did this. I don't know. I honestly don't think this is fucked up to say. I don't know how well thought he actually thought of this compared to like something like Ava. It seems kind of ham-fisted a bit.
It seems like it's going a little bit too far, but I can see those connections. I don't.
What do you think? As a fellow Ava expert,
I don't think it's gonna be this that he's absorbing organic matter. I think he's just. It's the same way that.
Why are they so humanoid though? It's bizarre. It makes no sense unless he's half human or like some capacity of humans inside of him.
I think because they talked about it being the pinnacle of evolution.
Yeah.
At first, it's just because it's so strong, and what's the next step in evolution? It's intelligence.
Right.
That's why we're apparently the ones destroying the world. So he's destroying all
the highest form of intelligence. You can reference that.
Yeah. So his evolution, maybe he becomes smaller, but he becomes more intelligent while still retaining some of that strength. Trying to find that middle ground between brain and brawn, I think that's where the evolution is striving towards. Which I think is very similar to Ava, because it's just they're getting attacked by this other thing and they need to conquer it back.
Totally, I can see
the angels. And even in that they conquer, they fight back against the angels by using the angels, because using humanity.
Yeah, because the weirdest part about Evangelion is that humanity is like the 18th angel. Like humanity is one of the monsters in the lore of Evangelion,
both metaphorically and literally, because
there's different life forms.
Yeah.
We're giving you Ava 101, Daniel.
Apparently.
We're gonna be like
this
really
is the small
stuff.
part of it too.
So
we haven't even gone to the ancient civilization that created the forbidden fruit and like made
okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna get too far.
We haven't got that far, but
it relates to Assassin's Creed.
Oh god,
I'm just kidding.
We have to go collect all the fucking feathers to make the complete puzzle for the cutscene.
Yeah, I want to get that one rapier. Wait,
I don't like the way you pronounce that.
No.
Anyways, so I think those design of those creatures as well. They had this dorsal fins, right?
Yeah.
They had the humanoid skull. They had humanoid features, everything. But like you said, that weird combination of the mutation of a human and the brain and brawn situation. But do you feel like? So do you think his ultimate goal? The more I think about it, is what we referenced earlier, where he's defensive, or Godzilla. It's instinctual. It's instinctual.
That's what I think.
Is it coming onto land to birth? Like, is it trying to give birth? That's my question. I honestly think that was it. It was coming up on land.
It's probably original intention wasn't that, because we saw it basically was kind of like in a pre-evolutionary state where it was just like, I'm basically born. I'm trying to just like
I can walk now. That's a voice I imagine at one point.
Yeah, but then later on, where it's like if the Godzilla quote unquote was made to be it self-preservates.
Yeah.
Then it would want to try and
reproduce.
Yeah.
In some way. It went through the life cycle. It really did in a rapid span of 15 weeks. Like almost that 15-day period. Not 15 weeks, by the way, earlier, but that 15-day period. Maybe
like a cocoon.
Was it like some sort of gestation?
Maybe it was gestation. Exactly. I like our theory of the fact that it's going on land to go through the entire life cycle. Like that. Maybe its life cycle is deep sea, then land, and then birth, and then death. Probably, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe it would just live, but.
Because evolution was a huge thing they touched on.
The implications here is incredible.
And like he stands up and he physically evolves in front of everybody. His arms come out. So it's not too crazy to assume.
I think we're on the money that it's definitely part of the biological life cycle of any organism is to reproduce.
They talk about the Godzilla that you see in the trailers being his fourth evolution. I don't understand
how they
evolution. Yeah, I don't know, but also I don't know how they would know it's its fourth evolution,
right?
And how the other one was its first.
It wasn't like they had a fucking GoPro behind Godzilla while he was
the entire time.
So these little Godzillas that are coming out of his tail, maybe that's the first step, and it's just redoing it again, and or it finally. Or finally, like there was one of those in the beginning, and it just grew from the nuclear waste.
Yeah.
And then now it's just restarting its cycle. We need to think of a name for those things.
They're not going to be as bad as the Zilla babies, the Velociraptors.
No.
But what would be a good name for them? I don't know what to call them. Spinies? No.
Spinies?
Not Spinies.
Tailsperms?
Hey, how about this? In the comments, if anyone's watched this far, which no one has, maybe I'll separate this into the specific ending talk. I'll do the separate video, but put in the comments what your name would be, and maybe we'll give you something.
What would you name the Godzilla babies?
What would you name the Godzilla baby mutant thingies? But
I would say something like Mortala or something like that.
Just a weird fictional.
Well, because they reference even in the beginning the whole intention. Well, the whole intent of calling Godzilla is because it's supposed to be of God.
Oh, we should talk about that.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, if this thing's supposed to be more reflective of human, then it's more mortal than God.
Yeah, because it bleeds. They even mentioned if it bleeds, it could die. That's how that's how I always see a trope. But they really do focus on the fact that one scientist, which they did not give enough screen time because I felt like he would have been more important. That gray scientist, the guy with the silver hair or the silver beard, who was he was the scientist saying it's immortal. It's the perfect organism. Etc.
Oh yeah.
Almost doing the Gendo poses sometimes. There is a focus on the fact that it is the pinnacle of a life form. It could self-persevere. It could self-mutate without the millions of years necessary.
It doesn't even have to masturbate.
It doesn't. You're right. The tail does stuff itself.
I can see that. There you go. Sorry.
I like how they kept its arms, by the way, Shin Godzilla's arms, so useless because it is a T-Rex at that point. It doesn't need that.
Yeah.
Tying this all back around into your final thoughts maybe about Shin Godzilla and where would you like to see the direction of Godzilla going, and maybe just any thoughts you have on the ending, just in general, what of Godzilla? What are your final thoughts as we wrap this up?
About where I want it to go,
or just any final thoughts on the film as well? Yeah,
I thought the film was actually way better than so many of the reviews out there.
Seem to give it credit.
Yeah. So
before we go into that, I'm sorry for people that you have to go in the right with the expectations. It's not a Daikaiju film. It's not a versus film. It's a Hideaki Anno film. And I think that's why we maybe call us biased. I have 2 Evangelion posters on my wall behind this camera, but
3. Oh, that's 1.
3. No, there's 4.
3.
There's 4. I was wrong. There's a 4. There's a Asuka one right there.
Yeah.
So maybe we're biased, but I thought it was God. It explored political commentary. It explored the state of really Godzilla as a franchise as well in such a superb fashion.
Does that count?
Which one? Oh, the figure?
No. Kamino.
No, that's Gainax. That doesn't count. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead. Go back into what you were talking about. We didn't talk about the Gojira and Godzilla naming convention, though.
America named it Godzilla.
That's cool. They actually did basically make it to where Godzilla he's named Godzilla. He's not named Gojira, really. They reference in this.
Well, they call it Gojira because that's how the kanji comes out.
Yeah, that's how the kanji comes out because they're idiot.
I thought they characterized America really well.
They did. They
even said words like America. Once their first stealth bomber died, they said payback.
Payback.
Let's get payback.
They characterize America pretty well. That is how the military pretty much is. Let's fuck things up. Basically. Yeah. And I honestly do think America could have destroyed Godzilla, physically destroyed Godzilla. The fact that they made him bleed, I think it would probably end a lot quicker. But I think that wouldn't be interesting if it was a Godzilla in America.
No, that'd be boring.
2014. No, I'm just kidding. That was good. I like 2014. I'm on the record for that. But final thoughts.
Final thoughts is it was just politically charged, much more than it was a kaiju film.
Yeah.
And so go in with that expectation and you'll really, really enjoy it, especially if you like big giant monsters with it.
Yes. Daniel.
I mean, that was one thing I didn't expect. I'm like, oh, Shin Godzilla, maybe, it's going to be more Godzilla than we thought just before, because Godzilla 2014 was very much it's about the people.
Yeah.
But this one's still very much about the people, just in a very different way. It's, it is cool to see, the insight that goes into how Japan, or at least, Anno views, Japan's, political
health, really.
Exactly, yeah. It's nice to see that displayed through not only the government itself and the people, but Godzilla as well.
This physical manifestation of fucking rage and nature. And
I really liked it. It was a lot more, exactly, it wasn't a kaiju fight, and I kind of appreciate that, because it It lets you appreciate Godzilla as Godzilla, but then it also lets you appreciate the characters dealing with said Godzilla. And I don't know, it was just really nice. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was very political satire, and I did enjoy it for a lot, but there is a lot of talking. So I will give it that. And then sometimes they try a little too hard with it, but it was good all around.
One more thing I want to say about that. Before the movie started, we were talking about what we think if there's going to be another kaiju in it.
We did.
And I jokingly said, because this is just the theme in so many of these kinds of movies, or even zombie movies, that humans are the real enemy. And they actually kind of went with that route because
they did.
In the very beginning, because of all that red tape that they need to do, all the bureaucracy that they need to go through to make something happen, and it was too late. So it shows that humans were kind of their own enemy, which I think was interesting because it didn't go the usual route.
Yeah, totally. I see that.
It did that use a different take for that kind of idea.
And it's like when we say enemy, it's totally the ideological concept of like, humans are they need to impose limits for society, but ultimately these limits are obviously need to be catered to the disaster or whatever's happening, and they couldn't adapt to it. And they never once made Godzilla the villain in terms of actively doing.
Yeah, he wasn't a monster.
Godzilla was an organism. And I will say this: the '98 Godzilla, I love that movie for my nostalgia as a kid. It's not a good, it's not a good Godzilla movie, but they do actually do that in the Godzilla '98 movie. They really try to show that reproductive cycle of Godzilla wanting children.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, there's a lot of similarities with the American Godzilla in this film. Like, if you go watch both of those, there's a lot of similarities.
And there's even that one offhand reference where they're like, if it was in New York, they would still do the same. It's like, wait, but
So I think it was interesting when you mentioned, I know we're going over this a lot. When you mentioned that didn't make it out to be a villain, and this is gonna get a little literary, but it parallels Frankenstein and his creature, not his monster. People always call Frankenstein the monster, but if you actually read Mary Shelley's,
the doctor is Frankenstein.
The doctor is Frankenstein, and
it's a creature.
It's creature. The reason that a lot of people say monster is because you know him as this hulking giant that kills people. When in the book, he's actually incredibly smart, and all he wants is love. He thinks, if I cannot get love, I will cause fear. And I don't think that's where the Godzilla is going, but the idea of viewing him as this creature versus this monster, I think, is very important.
I think the idea that Godzilla is the ultimate sin of U.S. and ultimate sin of war and of mankind's lust for, honestly, just governmental supremacy over each other, because obviously the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that was all based on during war times, and Godzilla is a manifestation of the collective guilt of both America in a lot of ways, as well as Japan's resilience. And going to my final thoughts, the 1954 Godzilla and this Godzilla share a lot of DNA in the sense that they're both obviously politically charged. We talked about that in length. But I think what's really cool about this film, and maybe for the rest of the franchise, I think the rest of the franchise should take a different direction entirely, by the way. I don't think there should be Shin Godzilla 2. I think it'd be really cool to get an explanation for those. I know my Anno Gainax ending brain, I really want to see an explanation for the babies.
Of course.
But we're never going to get that. We're not going to. Like, that would ruin End of Eva, for example, something like that, you know? If we got a full-on explanation of that. So, as much as I'd like a Shin Godzilla 2, I'm fine with them completely separating this as its own, like, little episodic chunk in the canon. Not canon, actually non-canon of Godzilla stuff. And being a portrait of what Godzilla originally tried to be in the 1954, which was the symbol of hope as well as destruction and psychological collective guilt. I hope that this movie will stand, and to me it does stand, as a film that really speaks a lot to what Japan probably should maybe pursue. I don't know. I feel like we're too ill-informed. I don't want to make it.
But we're American. We don't know.
We're Americans, so it might be a theme of us putting our fucking noses in everything. Yeah. But I honestly do, as someone who's a little bit more informed, I guess, than the average American on like Japanese politics, I would like to see...
I've read that BuzzFeed article too.
Yeah, exactly. Or Kotaku article. I'd like to see how this makes a ripple to come. I don't think it will make any like political... It's a political statement as much as like something like Avengers is about the destruction of innocent people. Like it's still a film at the end of the day, and I really did enjoy it, and I can't wait for 4.0, I guess. 4.0. I hope he does a better job with that.
Maybe he this movie put a little bit of creative resurgence in him.
There you go.
Maybe you're asking a little too much.
My job's done. I can go home.
I think I might be asking a little too much.
So if there's a second one, are you gonna be? You'll watch it.
I'm gonna watch all these
whatever.
Yeah, and there almost will certainly be a second one.
Mm-hmm. I think they'll. Do you think they'll really do that? I guess we can go into that. Like, I don't think they'll do another. I don't think so. I don't think it was that dumb. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. I mean,
money. They might have money, like dollar signs in their eyes because of 2014 already. That's why they kind of made this film.
Yeah,
right.
But I don't think they're gonna be. I just don't see them doing that. I can't see. I think
it would have had to done a lot better in America for it to do that. For them to actually make it.
It sold $1 million, by the way.
In America?
They already made $1 million in America, which is pretty good for a limited release.
Well, yeah, but I'm also. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I mean, it did amazing in Japan. But
explosive.
It was never going to do as good in America because it's not 2014.
It's doing fantastic, by the way, though. It is for a week. For a week, $1 million.
But I mean, if they would have made it a nationwide normal release, I don't think it would.
Oh no,
it wouldn't do
seats.
Well enough.
Yeah, it wouldn't do as many as we need to. But I'm glad that Funimation localized it, and we can't speak necessarily to the quality of the final Blu-ray release, but I will be buying the Blu-ray for sure.
I'll probably get it too.
I will watch it.
I'm excited, and I think that this is as much as this is a political statement for Japan's government to get shit together, maybe I think this is also a political statement to Toho to just make Godzilla films again. It's been forever since Shin Godzilla. It was you realize, guys, that the last one they made was in 2004 before this?
Yeah.
Isn't that utterly unbelievable? 12 years they waited.
Did math that fast.
You're not a writer. You're just a math major, aren't you?
Shut up.
This became aggressive cast. But anyways, I've been Hayden Robel. This has been our Godzilla Mega. This is the finale of Mega Monster Mayhem. I'm not lying.
This is what Mega Monster Mayhem evolved into.
Yeah, this is what we've been leading up to. And if you like this, go ahead and subscribe, I guess.
Yeah, like this video.
Like this video. I'm sure none of you guys got this far, but
if you skip towards the end, you get free stuff, maybe.
Yeah, again, give us the names for those baby Godzilla things.
Yeah.
Give us a name for that. Leave that in the comments. You can follow me at Hayden Robel. You can follow Daniel at Matsumi07. You can follow him at Koki_sorta.
Yes.
I don't know why I suddenly had that issue with your name because I keep wanting to say Corky.
Well, that's wrong. It's Koki. In Spanish, it's Koki.
Kokis?
Koki.
Koki.
Can you say that?
Corky.
No,
Koki.
Koki?
Koki.
Why has this become that? I don't know.
If you watch any of our videos,
I can say that. Okay. Can we end that? No.
There was one Sugoi.
There was a Sugoi counter that went off in there. But anyways, guys, I want you to give your best Godzilla roar. I'm not doing anything.
Sorry.
Good night.
Thanks for watching.